All right, and welcome to East County Sports Live for Tuesday, October 8th. I'm joined by a trio of East County football stars that all had pretty big games last week, actually having pretty big seasons. Top of the screen, top right-hand corner, junior quarterback Gabe Krug of the Christian Patriots. Down at the bottom, lower left, Jeremy Mendez-Gal of the Steele Canyon Cougars, senior quarterback, and lower right, senior running back Isaiah Gardner of the Monte Vista Monarchs. Isaiah, start with you. You had the nice win over Chula Vista last week, a much-needed win, and a win that really put the season back on track for you guys. I'm willing to put that 2-4 start aside and look forward to this week's big Battle of Spring Valley Championship against the Mount Miguel Matadors. I know the Matadors have looked good. They come in a little bit higher rated, but now that you guys got that confidence under your belt and you're playing your closest rival at home, you don't have a league decision yet. You're 0-0. Win this game, the Monarchs are 1-0, and everyone's happy again. And, hey, you guys could put in a drive for the league title.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me about the win last week against the Spartans. Oh, you just had 4 touchdowns, but, hey, it was close early.
Yeah, what happened was, we made little mental mistakes. We had a lot of penalties. And, yeah.
That sounds unlike a Ron Hamamoto team. He achieved a milestone of his own, tying for 4th in the section, but I imagine that didn't matter anything by the end of the week. I mean, if you guys made penalties, I imagine you've had a pretty tough day, so had a pretty tough day today.
Yeah, what happened was, he told us that we have to start focusing more, be more disciplined.
Yeah, we'll talk about your game in just a moment. It's going to be a big game against Mount Miguel, and ask you a few more questions about the game against the Spartans. Gabe, you guys played on Saturday night. I think that was your first Saturday night game of the year. That's something they do at Christian when Granite Hills has the stadium on Friday night. And looking at the highlights, looking at the box score, I know we ran the little Utah play a couple of times, but Gabe, you had an awful night, man. One of your worst games of the season. 0 for 1 passing with an interception. I'm not going to throw in the fact that you ran for nearly 200 yards and you guys ran all over the University City Centurions. Tell me how that strategy evolved. I know there's injuries to your receiving core. It sounds like, unfortunately, Gabe, you guys are having to start from scratch, and it's not a great time to have to do that, but the strategy worked out against UC. Despite the close score, you guys led by 3 touchdowns twice in the second half. Tell me about the game.
Basically, I mean, like you said, we started from scratch. Coach Beezer put in some really good plays just to kind of help us up our run game, because we couldn't necessarily pass all the time just because we have 2 new receivers coming up from JV. So a lot of the plays were run plays. We didn't really pass much just because we're not going to pass until we make sure that the receivers know what they're doing and they understand the concepts. So it was definitely a bigger running game for me. So, I mean, I just took advantage of it and just did my thing.
How much were reads? I mean, I know Gabe's going to get 20 carries, and he did. He ran for 160 yards, a couple of touchdowns. But, hey, you matched Isaiah. Yeah, I think you had 4 rushing touchdowns. And, hey, you're a quarterback. So, we teased you a little bit, said, hey, here comes Gabe Krug, highly talented quarterback, maybe a Division I prospect. He's got great look, great form. And basically it took off on bootlegs several times into the wide open field. So how much of that develops at the line of scrimmage? Was it a thing where maybe you knew you guys were going to have to run Gabe? And when I say Gabe, I mean Gabe Stein, but yourself. And how much was, you know what, early success, this run game's working. I mean, sure, we have some passes in, but let's just keep doing this because it's working.
Yeah, not going to lie, I didn't hear a lot of what you said because it's lagging a little bit, but I heard a couple of good things probably.
Your run game, Jeremy? Your run game, Gabe? Your run game taking off running? Can you hear me on that? Your bootlegs getting out in the open?
I have pretty bad internet, but
okay. I'm gonna type something into the private chat. I'm gonna come to you with other questions, but maybe I can turn to Jeremy a little bit. And Jeremy, first, I just want to congratulate you on your guys' undefeated start this season. You know, I think if you were in a situation like Gabe was in, losing a lot of your outside wide receivers, that would have been a problem. Chris Carter had that 70-yarder to get you guys rolling last week. Still, it turned out to be a tough game against the Eagles. It wasn't really even done to the fourth quarter. I think people think that you guys had that game firmly in control, but because of the score, maybe you guys didn't feel that way. Tell me about that first play to Chris, and tell me about the game flow.
Well, the first play, like the first two plays, we really couldn't move the ball. Really weren't doing anything. And then we had a great scheme. We had practiced that play for the whole week because we knew we could get them on it. And then they came down on the screen, and I just put it up, and it was wide open.
Yeah, only 175 yards, man. That's, if I'd have said that at the beginning of the season, you'd been like, hey, 175 yards in that Granite Hills game. But you've been actually kind of surpassing that. I've kind of touted that you guys, that really your statistics have improved with every game. But I imagine those were 175 well-earned yards against a tough Granite Hills defense. Tell me about some of the emotions there late. They moved within a touchdown, and, you guys needed that extra score. But, boy, they are they've been some tough games with the Eagles, and you certainly had to feel like, it came down to the finish.
Yeah, it did. We always knew they were going to be on our back, so we were trying to push and do something with our offense, but their defense was good, and they just stopped us, and we relied on our defense, which is phenomenal.
What happened to that play? What happened to that play with So what about that play where and I know Coach has been talking about this play a lot lately. What about that one where Burton was wide open? I mean, there was not a guy on him. I bet you Coach Jesse was just having a fit. I can't even imagine his face. He was so wide open. What happened there?
I think it was just a breakdown in coverage. It was just a good play they caught us with.
Ramon, that play was just phenomenal. I've been talking to a couple of the coaches, and they said they haven't looked at that part of the film yet. They just know that. And what was interesting about that too is, being a Burton that beat a Burton, with the coordinator, and then the young man who actually scores the touchdown.
Yeah.
So kind of ironic, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was.
What'd you think about that, Jeremy? It's something I really didn't touch in any of the articles, Dave, because, I kind of want him to be his own man. And when I say that, I as great as the other Burtons have been, I kind of want Zach to be his own man. So I really didn't even tie that part of the story into it. But just the fact that one of the Burton brothers are coaching over there at Steele Canyon. Jeremy, first, what do you make of it? And Dave, if you can comment on it, please.
I think it's great that they're all successful in their own ways, really.
Dave, we know that it's certainly there's some history there, of course, after Will's passing. I remember a lot of the Steele Canyon players, they were out there that night that they had that candlelight vigil. I mean, the whole team really of Steele Canyon was represented on that night. And Dave, I'll have you followed up with this. And I want to go back and I want to look at that game when that game happened against Steele. I think it was the regular season game, because if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to go back and look at the video, I swear they threw a pass to Will where the Cougars didn't cover him and he ran for like 40 yards. I promise you, I think that happened.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe at the initial the touchdown that I saw, though, there were two defenders all over.
Oh yeah, that's the one everybody remembers. They're playing the end zone with 30 seconds left, or maybe it was less than that.
I mean, that one there, but there was a lot of in that game and in the regular season game as well. I mean, you could say the same thing, Jeremy, for sure. That how hard was it watching even from the sidelines and then talking to your DBs? How hard was it really to cover Will?
They all used to say it was really hard. I mean, he's just a giant, and yeah.
And being a big guy, I mean, just he kind of reminds me, not quite the same build, but kind of a we'll call him a mini Gronk. Wouldn't you say? That would suffice?
Yeah.
Hey, Isaiah, just want to get back a little bit to that game against the Spartans. I wanted you to comment maybe on the development of your quarterback, Ruben Silva. He had a 40-yard touchdown in the first quarter, and then you mentioned Dejan. He had a touchdown reception that gave you guys kind of that early lead. So that's what we've kind of needed, maybe a little bit of development. Same thing as on other years on offense is to develop that passing game moving forward. How's Ruben doing?
Ruben's doing great. In practice, we started throwing the ball more. We're still going to keep, because we're Monte Vista, and that's just what we do best. And but we are slowly getting better. And Ruben Silva, he's a crazy athlete. He can play anything, anywhere. And Shingleton, for a junior who just got brought up for his first varsity game, he did really well.
Yeah, Dave, it's going to be a contrast to styles, out there on Friday night with the Monarchs and the Matadors?
No, absolutely. I mean, Hamamoto has, I think that's been his signature even before McClendon came on the scene, that we are going to pound the rock and then we're going to leave it to our elite defense to get out there and hold them to as least amount of yards as possible, possibly cause a turnover. Is that not usually the formula as far as Hamamoto? Wouldn't you agree, Isaiah? That's typically a Hamamoto offense. And then occasionally he might pull a magic rabbit out of his hat and ask Silva to toss it. Maybe a bubble screen.
To be honest, I didn't hear a word you said. I don't know why. I can't hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave. I'll relay it. He was just wondering maybe about the play selection moving forward, maybe against the Matadors. I mean, they're high-powered and they do put up a lot of points. And, we're going to have to stick to our guns. I mean, we have to run you, Isaiah, and I think try to keep their offense off the field. But any chance of getting it out to you guys, running a little bit more short passing game? Will we have to try to keep up with the Matadors, or are we just going to try to slow this thing down big time?
We're going to try to keep the ball out of the – we're trying to keep the ball out of the offense because Shaheem, they will make plays on us. And, like, the key for us to win the game is to keep the offense off the field.
Hey, Gabe, go ahead, Dave.
And if you can hear me this time, Isaiah, how has it been? Has it been somewhat of a living in the shadow? Does that ever come up of McClendon? Because you're actually, since you're the guy now, and he established himself for 3 years over there. Does that ever come up, or is it just a whole new Monarch offense and that doesn't ever come up?
Isaiah playing after Jamon last year and the great numbers that he had, being the guy that comes after Jamon. Hey, he had 184 yards last week. Maybe shout out your offensive line. You're doing a great job, but have you felt any pressure coming in after Jamon? That's what Dave's asking.
Not really. This is, to be honest, this is my first year playing running back. And I kind of surprised myself because I didn't think I was going to be playing this position. Because, like, from freshman year, I went from a tight end to DN to inside linebacker, and now I'm a running back. I would have never thought that I would be playing offense.
I think that just goes to show what Coach Ham does. He just pieces his personnel where he thinks that they're going to be the most efficient. And you look at Isaiah's production, and I think, once again, Coach Ham, the record setter, Dave, has made a great decision with Isaiah being the prototypical Monarch workload back.
Yeah, I think that's just the key. that's a signature, I think, of Coach Yamamoto is, you know what, and if it's not broken, don't fix it. We're gonna pound the ball as many times as possible, and we're gonna take what the defense gives us. And over the years, as we've seen, especially last year, and if you look at his total record, he's been very successful at that, and he's always had a pretty stout defense as well. Maybe they're not as big sometimes, but I think that the athleticism that comes into play, I think, is one of the reasons that also that the Monarchs have been so successful and so competitive.
Hey, I'm going to try to squeeze one in. We got Gabe back, and I don't know if he can hear me. I'm going to try to phrase a question to him, and just kind of what we were following up on. Just because, Dave, when you send me the stats from Huddle, and I don't know if Christian has revised stats because they run the Utah play. As it turned out, Christian, and I teased Gabe earlier about his only pass being intercepted. Of course, he ran for 4 touchdowns and 190 yards. So, of course, he had a brilliant game and, maybe outperformed the great Gunnar Gray with what he needed to do. But, Gabe, how much of it is improvised in reads because it ends up being bootlegs around the outside? I mean, either you're faking the handoff to your main man, Gabe Stein, who has 20 carries and he's running right through these guys, and you're pulling out on a rollout. It ends up being a long keeper. You ran for several touchdowns on that type of play. Can you hear me, Gabe?
Yeah. Basically, a lot of the plays I'm running are designed runs just because we're trying to utilize all we have on the offense, especially since a lot of the action is going to be going on in the backfield and not necessarily at the wideouts. But basically, just the runs that I'm doing, the bootlegs, I mean, it all comes down to good fakes and being disciplined with every single play, trying to run it exactly the same, trying to be organized, and then right when we try and run a fake or try and give me the ball, it looks exactly the same except I'm keeping it, and then I'm walking into the end zone. So it all comes down to our line doing their thing, and then our running backs doing their fakes, and it all helps me get into the end zone.
So, Dave, you went to the game, and I immediately had questions when I saw those stats on Huddle, and I invite the Patriots to either revise their stats or get back to us if any of the Utah plays could be counted as passes this week. But bottom line was Christian ran all over University City, Dave. They ran basically every play. They did not throw the ball really downfield at all. Now, a lot of that, you were away from us in the chat. You had the technical difficulties. Gabe explained it. Carson Stroman's hurt. Jack St. Fleur's hurt. Receivers are hurt. They're almost starting from scratch with their receiving core right now, unfortunately, right when they get into league play. But against University City, it worked. Whether or not it will work against Mira Mesa might have a little more of a staunch defense than University City did. So we'll see. Christian's probably going to have to take to the air a little bit. But could you imagine a Christian team not throwing the ball downfield, Dave?
No, I can't because you look at prior to Gabe even coming in there, Owen Easley was I think it would be safe to say he would pass at least every 3, maybe every series he would pass at least twice. He had a good running core, but he had a great arm. And the same thing with Gabe. I know, Gabe, that you'd love to open it up and throw a couple of 50-yard bombs downfield and pick up that quick yardage. But I also believe that with what's going on, that I think Coach Beazer and Coach O have probably told you we want to kind of take that age-old saying of let's take what the defense gives us and let's make sure we hold on to the rock, of course. And then with your speed around the ends, and like Ramon mentioned, the bootlegs and a lot of those fakes, they were working real well against University City as far as the defense covering those plays. Now, one thing I want you to explain to us, just kind of draw the picture of what it looks like, because I thought it was fantastic, and really you can't really give it away as far as the recipe for this particular play. But how about that starfish play?
It's a play that was at the back of of the playbook that we decided to pull out. I think it was just more of a test play, just see how it worked against the defense. We ran it, one practice during the week, and we were just seeing if it worked. And we were up by a little bit, so we wanted to try it out. And to be honest, I don't even know how much it succeeded. I don't want to go into too much of the play, but one of the times we actually ran it wrong. And I think if we ran it right, it could have ended better. But
Listen, what is it? What is it?
A play.
Clue us in, please.
Let's put it this way, Ramon. Without giving anything away, you basically got to be a great photographer also, or a great videographer to figure out who has the ball. That's basically how it comes. I mean, there's players going everywhere.
So it's some type of misdirection. Everybody comes together. Like
yeah.
Is that like the old kickoff where everybody'd run together and then one guy'd come out with it? I don't even think that's legal anymore.
Well, somehow they made it legal because
okay.
I'll tell you what, the refs weren't calling that, but we won't get into the officials whatsoever.
Yeah, I know Gabe might be frozen there. I'll turn our attention to Jeremy. Jeremy, what do you do with all these weapons that you got, and how do you decide on your reads? I mean, you almost could interchange the numbers on some of these players and their talents between Wesley Neely and Antoine Walker, and of course we mentioned Chris Carter. Who am I forgetting?
And Antoine Walker, Chance Johnson, Junior Akintunde. We have so many weapons to utilize.
And how much did you guys pay attention this week to that? I don't know. I'll talk about it because Dave likes to talk about it. But the CIF ranking had Steele Canyon on top today of the 4-team playoff. I just will caution Dave that once the Cougars play this game against El Capitan this week, and they also play Valhalla for the Hammershaw helmet, that's the damage. I mean, that's why the league is making the change. We won't ask Jeremy to comment on that. I mean, they should win these games, Dave, but their future's uncertain. I don't think even the Cougars know. I think they know win all their games, and that's all they can do, and let the rest take care of itself if they make the open division or not, Dave. But I think it's out of their hands. They just have to win the games.
Yeah, but what I will ask, Jeremy, and in case Ramon hasn't asked you that quite yet, but I mean, you're 6-0 already as a starter. I mean, that's already got to feel fantastic and be one of the elite, top. I mean, no one at the beginning of the year. I don't think as many as maybe besides Ramon and myself and yourselves would have thought that you guys would be undefeated at this point in time. So, yeah. I mean, that's got to feel great. And then you being behind center as well. Did you really think you were going to be 6-0 thus far?
I mean, coming from myself, I think I've always had the confidence where, I feel like my team could be successful and we could go out there and win as many games as we should.
And you really, I mean, we'll go back to that Granite Hills game because, I mean, let's just face it. Those are always, and I know we got the Hammershaw helmet coming up with Valhalla, and I don't want to take anything away from the Valhalla game and such, but those Granite games are just always so entertaining, whether you be an Eagle fan or if you're a Cougar fan from start to finish, because you never know, especially at that fourth quarter and that last 5 minutes, you never know what can happen. There's some wacky plays that happen at the end. I mean, you could even explain it yourself. Maybe you want to tell us about a certain fumble, maybe from the other team when there was about a minute and a half left, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, because I know before that I fumbled, and I was like myself, and I was like, man, this can't be happening because these Granite games, you never know, like something always that happens. And that happened, but I had confidence in my defense, and they went out and they got that.
Jeremy, tell me about that. I mean, now that you brought it up, I wasn't going to, Dave. Thanks a lot. Jeremy, you were not in a situation. You guys could not kill the clock there. I think you needed one more first down, right? You were going to have to punt. I don't think it might have been a second or a third down, but it got jostled pretty good. I think you might even got hung up in midair, and the contact made a cane because you had nothing to balance your legs with, so you were free falling in the air, and some hand or paw got in there and knocked you. I don't know if it was on the ball. It might have actually been on your person, but you probably, it looked like to me, were probably floating in air being contacted, and all of a sudden the ball was below you.
Yeah, it was tough. I just felt someone hit the ball on my head, and it just went out, and I was like, oh, man, can't be happening.
Right. I mean, Coach can only tell us so many times, the most crucial moment, and they get the ball back, Dave, and then, in a way, with all due respect to James over at Granite Hills, James Johnson, he kind of got hit it was kind of the same type of deal, the way James got contacted. He was hit kind of stretching it. He wanted to keep the play alive, stretching yards, and the Cougars got in there and made the big play and ended up running it back for a pick six on that play. It was James Bradle ended up returning the ball, but I think Colton Guerrero might have actually made the contact and forced the fumble. What a day he had.
Yeah, sure.
Vilyamu Rugby had 3 sacks, but Colton was all over the place in that game. Jeremy, look, I'm not saying that Elia couldn't come in and do a good job. Maybe I could come in and quarterback this team the way that defense rolls.
Yeah.
Makes it nice.
Yeah, it does.
But and speaking of defense, that's, I think, and you would probably agree, Jeremy, that between the two defenses, really, I don't know, on the rankings, I don't pay quite as much attention to them because I look at overall play of what I see, and what I saw is you guys played phenomenal defense, not to take away from your offense, but also, with Granite Hill struggling so much on offense because of your defense. Would you agree that they made some severe adjustments at halftime when they came back in the second half? The way that they, we had him on a couple of weeks ago, and I remember one of his quotes, and I'm sure you might have even read it. Jeremiah Statbury, he got 2 sacks on you, and one of them, he said, "Hey, he was unblocked, and it was Merry Christmas to me because there was nobody there, so I got a freebie on that one, and then I think maybe a play later or 2 plays later, he got another one."
Yeah. They made some really good adjustments and stopped our offense.
And what is said in there? It seems like you guys all have a good relationship as far as playing the Eagles and the Eagles playing you. I don't think anybody. I didn't see any taunting after the sack or anything like that. And it's kind of good to see that sportsmanship that's still there. Even though it's a great play if you get away from him, or it's a great play if he makes a sack. It's kind of nice to see in high school football. When you agree?
Yes, of course.
Hey, Isaiah, I want to know about the 50-yarder in the game last week. I think came at a key time. Tell me about your offensive line. Please tell me about those guys again. Are they all healthy this year? And what the job they've been doing for you in that 50-yard touchdown run last week against the Spartans?
Man, they have a lot of heart. They really do. They're the definition of size don't matter. Half of our line is like they're underneath like 5'10", but they have heart and they're all strong. Believe me.
How many can you name? I'll let you slide. I'll let you go with just 3 of them, but I imagine you could probably do all 5, or maybe even 6. Maybe even throw in a tight end or an extra lineman in there.
Yeah, for sure. Jared Reinholdt, Brandon Navarez. There's Jesse, Bustos, Emmanuel, and Ortiz. Like they're
pretty good job, Dave.
Absolutely. And how big? How did it energize you guys after a big win like that? After a couple of, I mean, you had some heartbreakers, but at the same time, uh, we looked at your schedule and playing games against Lincoln and playing games against the teams that you played before league play. Hamamoto was really just trying to gear you up on being the best that you could possibly be and reducing the amount of mistakes so you could get ready for league and make a run for it. And I think he's got you in a pretty good position. I mean, that was a real important game to win last week. You did it, and now you got a real important crosstown game that really, at this point, it's a must-win.
Yeah, Isaiah, you said it yourself. The mistakes really have been what's been upsetting you about those losses, and that's not characteristic of Coach Ron's teams. Tell me about what went wrong.
It's just we're just not focused. That's really all it is. Just not focused.
Yeah. Well, Dave, like you said, I mean, you talk about how important a game it is, and take a look. The reason why is right there. Not only, it's the Battle of Spring Valley. So, hey, I don't know what Coach is going to say. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe he already said it today. I'm kind of interested if he's prepped you at all. I mean, we still got several days, so he hasn't brought it up yet. I mean, obviously, you guys know because I talked about it right at the start of the broadcast, Dave. Monte Vista gets that win. They're 1-0. They're 1-0. One of those teams in that Santee game is going to come out of there with a loss. Now, we know Santana's favored to win, but, West Hills, it's the rivalry game there too. West Hills is kind of energized as well. So if Monte Vista pulls off this upset, Dave, they've got 1-0 in their standing in the Grossmont Valley League. That puts them right in contention. They're going to end up playing in a championship football game that they know that, hey, we're on the same field. We go out and win that big game against that purple team. If whatever happens this weekend, it's all brand new. It's kind of like the same position West Hills is in this week.
And let's not forget, Isaiah. Let's not forget that originally, and we had this conversation with you, Ramon and myself. I believe it was middle of August that you were actually expected to win the Valley League at the beginning of the season, and it's always expected to repeat after what Monte Vista did last year. So unfortunately, the pressure's on, right?
You're the defending, hey, you guys are the defending champs, Isaiah. Until you're beat, you guys are the champs.
What do you say?
Yeah, Dave was kind of just talking about the importance of the game and equating it to the fact that maybe some guys who don't know football very well, that's sitting in front of a green background, doesn't know that the Monte Vista Monarchs weren't going to win the league title. And I say, hey, until that game happens, you guys are the defending league champs, and that's a fact.
Yeah, we started off like this. Actually, my sophomore year. So 2 years ago, when we won CIF, we started just like this, 1-4.
And I don't know if I'm having a little bit of a problem, maybe Isaiah hearing me, but I just wanted to say one more thing, Dave. I'll address it to you, but maybe Isaiah, you can comment on it. I was going to talk about the motivations that Coach Hamamoto can explain. Obviously, you don't need to be sold on the fact that you're playing Mount Miguel. You don't need to be sold on the fact that you're 0-0 in league and could be 1-0. But if I'm Coach Ham, I go in there and say, hey, look, we've won this series. Even if Mount Miguel might be favored in the power ratings this week or whatever the ratings are, the Monarchs have beaten them 4 out of the last 5 times. So that's what I would sell them on. We can beat the Matadors. We have done it 4 out of the last 5 times, Dave, and we are at home.
Yeah, and I think that's really the having to go in. I don't know that I think it's this year. I think it's going to be who wins the turnover battle, and I think it's also time of possession. You know what? And especially time of possession for the Monarchs. If they can keep JD and Jaheim off the field, you win the ball game. Period.
You're basically telling Isaiah he's got to carry the ball 30 times and he can't fumble. Is that okay with you? Is that a game plan? Isaiah,
Yeah,
if that
that's
were
okay
the game
with me.
plan, is that okay by you?
Whatever helps the team.
Dave, is that what you think? I mean,
no, absolutely. I mean, I think if it were something that Hamamoto were to draw up, number one, I know what he would say for sure, and he's told it to me, and he's told it to you several times. I don't care about the rankings. I don't care where we're at. I don't care about all those numbers. But I am going to do what traditionally works for me, and I'm going to do it until it stopped. Basically, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So that is exactly what I think he's going to do. And I think one of the main focuses is keep the gunslinger off the field.
Dave, how do you stop Jaheim Allen Pompey? I think when you were off screen, we were asking Isaiah about it, and Shingleton is going to be on him, but there's going to be additional guys. Even against Santana last week, he didn't. I don't think he reached the end zone, but he had 11 catches. Right now, he's the second leading receiver in the nation in terms of yardage, at least reported yardage to Max Preps. Still, whatever the case may be, he's one of the top yardage receivers in the nation, one of the top receivers in the nation for receptions, Dave. They've got other guys on the Matadors. What would you do if you were the Monarchs?
I would probably stack the box and make sure that you put a lot of pressure and you flush JD out of that pocket. And that would be probably the best bet. And, get him some happy feet back there. Don't give him that comfort. Keep him in that pocket where he can step to the left or to the right, or he can just take 2 steps forward and launch that ball and find his guy. Don't give him any time and, make him have to get out of there.
Isaiah, do you got to bring the heat on D? He moves swiftly. He's not fleet of foot, but he's scored in the last several weeks. He's scored multiple touchdowns in games, running a little bit longer than he used to. He's kind of a pocket passer. I know you know a little bit about defense.
Yeah. I remember going against him last year. He's not fast, but he's how would I put this?
Well, he's elusive. I mean, he shifts his feet. He shifts his feet. He stays behind the line.
He's not afraid of contact, not at all.
No.
Like he'll run it too. He's not scared.
Jeremy, have you seen JD on film a little bit? What do you think of him? He's only a junior. He's a record-setting quarterback at this point for that school. He's the best really they've ever had. I mean, that's a prolific passing game. I'm sure you pay attention to those highlights since they're kind of Spring Valley too.
Yeah, of course. I remember youth football. He didn't play quarterback, and seeing him playing quarterback now is crazy. He's balling out.
Tell me about that then. Tell me about what you remember about Jacob and you being a quarterback, because now that you see him, you're right. I mean, Starr, he's kind of like Coach Ham. He sticks the ball in the guy's hands who he sees fit to play a particular position. He saw something in JD, and now we all see something in JD. So we know they're playing that level of competition that they are, but those defenses are really no match for what he's doing with Jaheim. I mean, even you don't have a connection like that. Maybe you got more weapons, but I'm sure when you see the Mount Miguel highlights, your eyes peek up at that screen.
Of course. Yeah, he's doing what he's doing. I think he's confident in his craft, and he's working hard to be successful.
And I think that Isaiah said it best. Is JD is he's not afraid to stay in that pocket as long as possible. And let's face it, he's not exactly the smallest guy either. He can take some hits. He can shake off a couple of people and step up and still throw the ball, and he with a lot of force behind it because of the type of build and again the fearlessness of being in that pocket and having a fearless rush coming at him. You can stack the box, and I don't think you can really. It's really hard to rattle the kid.
Yeah. And Dave, so we'll just promote these two games again. And we lost Gabe. Let me promote Gabe's game first. We lost him. His connection, he said, wasn't too good, but I think we got some good answers out of him. And Christian, we'll be playing at Mira Mesa. Don't let Mira Mesa's record fool you. I think they got a pretty good. Jeremy, please. Okay. All right, I got another question. Jeremy, I got another question. The Mira Mesa Marauders. I saw you play Mira Mesa. T-Max had the big play of the game, really, when Elijah Thomas got knocked out of the game. T-Max hit him, baby. T-Max nailed him. Not a perfectly legal play. Thomas was looking the other way, and T-Max smacked him. The ball pops out, one bounce. T-Max picks it up. All of a sudden, he looks like he's running the wrong end zone, but he knows what he's doing. He had a 30-yard run, and he ended up getting back to the original point of where the fumble occurred, I think. But Jeremy, what can you tell me about Mira Mesa? Now I wish I had Gabe on here. Gabe is the quarterback for the Patriots. He's going to be facing that Marauder defense. Tell me what you know about the Marauder defense, what Gabe is going to face. I think Christian's going to have to pass a little bit more. Yeah. I don't think they can do what they did last week and run every play. Tell me about Mira Mesa's defense.
For sure. Their linebacker core is really nice. They got some good size, and they're not afraid to hit. I know I was even smacked around by number 2 and number 1. They were
Fabe Laomiti.
Yeah, he's
number 1. Yeah.
He's big, yeah, and they come down hard. They're not afraid to hit, and yeah.
Okay, so they're pretty good team. Dave and Christian, I think, has done a pretty good job to kind of lie low a little bit, considering their 4-2 record. Those losses, I think, kind of struck them down a notch a bit, but I think they're back right now. So, and of course, Isaiah's game going up against those Mount Miguel Matadors. That's going to be the interesting one. In Jeremy's game against El Capitan. I'm not calling it a tune-up at all. Dave, I'll just mention last year's game was 48-20. Jeremy Wesley rushed for 130 yards and scored a couple of touchdowns, but Antoine Walker and T-Max both had interceptions in that game. And which one thing I don't think this story's gone by the wayside, Dave. We talk about the special teams, but Jeremy, I don't think those guys have made it to Chinese buffet this year. I don't think the special teams have done. But last year, Chris Carter had an 88-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, Dave, against Mira Mesa. So maybe, just maybe, we could sneak into that Chinese buffet this week.
Well, I also want to, we gave him props for making all of his extra points, and I think he's underestimated, and I'm sure that Jeremy will say the same thing too, of how vital David Martinez is also to the Cougars this season, as far as being money. Wouldn't you say, Jeremy? When it comes down, don't you want to have him kicking that long field goal when it comes down to the game winner?
For sure.
And also, I wanted to say, these are the kind of games too. I don't want to call it a trap game. That's what they say they are. But I can tell you one thing: if El Cap is going to give you one thing, they're going to give you a heck of an offensive play, because they do have a lot of weapons, and I'm sure you're aware of them. You've seen Wickhauser. He's very fast, running to the outside and even in the inside, running people down. And not to mention, he's great on the run, throwing the ball across his body, the long passes, great screens, just overall offensive schemes too. Ron Burner is definitely no slouch when it comes to calling some great offensive plays. But it's nothing new to you, that I'm not telling you anything that you didn't already know.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Isaiah Gardner, thank you so much, my friend. Good catching up with you again, and good luck against the Matadors. That one going to be a close game, Dave, no doubt about it. And we're rooting for you, Isaiah. We're rooting for our Matadors too.
Thank you
for a great game. They're renewing the rivalry, the Battle of Spring Valley, and I'm not going to call it what that other name. I saw Brett Fisher retweeted the broadcast, but he's kind of given this game a nickname, and we're not going to use that nickname until we see some dollar signs from that business. But we might meet down there for some burgers after the game this week, right there down off of Hamashaw. And Jeremy Mendez-Gal doing a great job, really great job. Really no mistakes all season until that play last week. He's probably kicking himself, still putting everybody on the edge of their seats with that fumble. He just wanted to tuck it away. So, and Gabe Krug, thanks a lot. We know we'll catch up with you again.
Absolutely.
He's a junior, and he's got big things planned, obviously, in his future. And, he could take to the air if he wants to, Dave. That's just not what they needed last week. Just a bizarre result for Christian running the ball every time. All right. Thanks a lot, Dave. Great job. You're welcome to stay on with me. Isaiah, Jeremy, thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us.